Hello and good evening, our beloved viewers. You are watching on Live RTD channel. Welcome to this English news edition. Here are the headlines. The Ministry of Youth and Culture launched preparation for the 13th edition. And for the international scene, the World Cup, Norway and England in the quarter-finals of 2026 World Cup. Those were the headlines. Thanks for joining us in our newsroom. The Ministry of Youth and Culture has launched preparation for the 13th edition of the Grand Presidential Award Youth Initiative for 2026. In this context, the Minister of Youth and Culture, Ms. Ferdousa Moussaige, shared the working meeting on Sunday, July 5, with senior ministry officials to establish the organizational framework for this prominent national cultural event. The meeting were focused on reviewing and discussing the proposed theme submitted by the ministry's technical department as well as the strategy direction for organizing this year's edition. This consultation resulted in identifying the main theme for selecting a unified theme that's aligned with national priorities and the competition is objective. On this occasion, the minister emphasized the great importance of this award as a national platform in order to ensure the excellence and creativity of development young talent, stressing the need for the concerned effort from all stakeholders. The Ministry of Economy and Environment and also the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development in collaboration with the Ministry of Economy and Finance and with financial support from the African Development Bank, organized a national capacity building. This workshop will focus on mobilizing the climate finance and the bankable climate project. The workshop took place from July 6 at the Sheraton Hotel. This event reflects the government's commitment to strengthening the capacity building of national institutions to improve the country's access to international climate finance mechanism. It brings together representatives from government department, local authorities, the private sector, civil society organization, and technical and financial partners. Over 4 years, participants will benefit from training sessions, practical exercise, and experience sharing on key climate finance mechanism, donor requirements, and project design methodologies that meet funding criteria. Through this initiative, the government reaffirmed its commitment to accelerating the transition to sustainable development and strengthening the country's capacity to mobilize the necessary financing and address climate change. The African Development Bank's support underscore the importance it places on strengthening national capacity and developing high quality project capable of stressing and attracting the investment needed for the climate change adaptation and mitigation. In his speech on his opening remarks, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development stressed that the strengthening national capacity is essential to developing high-quality projects that meets donor requirement and mobilize more resources for the country's climate priorities. He also emphasized on this occasion the workshop here. Allow me to express, he said, my deep gratitude to the African Development Bank to founding this project, which aimed to strengthen institutional and technical capacity for mobilizing climate change finance for environmental protection and climate risk management, known as the RICF, And I would also like to commend the African Development Bank's continued commitment to Djibouti and the results already achieved since the project is launched. Other news now: strengthening on financial audit capacity in institution, but also relief support project under the high patronage of the Minister of Mrs. Mhan Mohamed Ibrahim, President of the Court of Account of Djibouti, who also served as a President of the Regional Training Council for SAPRAM Audit Institution in French-speaking sub-Saharan Africa. The Republic of Djibouti is hosting a 3 days regional workshop dedicated to reviewing and preparing financial audit report for the relief support project. This opening ceremony was held at the Sheraton Hotel with the participation of senior officials from SAPRAM Audit Institution in French-speaking sub-Saharan African member states. A delegation from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burkina Faso, and also Democratic Republic of Madagascar, Mali, and Senegal, Chad attend the workshop. This workshop aimed to strengthen the financial audit capacity of participating institutions, harmonizing professional practice, and also improve the quality of audit report for the relief support project in accordance with the international standards on auditing. The President of the Court of Audit, Mrs. Mhan Mohamed Ibrahim, in her speech, welcomed the delegation from the Francophone Sub-Saharan African member state. She invited participants to share their experience to contribute effectively to the review and preparation of financial audit report in a spirit of cooperation and knowledge sharing. The project for conducting financial audit occupies a special place within the portfolio of intervention of member states as it is implemented for the benefit of SAPRAM audit institution in Francophone Sub-Saharan Africa. This project, she said, also embodies the sure commitment of the region's SAPRAM audit institution and the Global Fund to ensure sustained and rigorous oversight of grant provide under the Global Health Initiative to enhance the contribution of oversight institution. The multi-sectoral consultative workshop on women. This morning, the Ministry of Women and Family Affairs organized a consultative workshop at the People's Palace. The workshop was dedicated to develop a national training and awareness campaign on the importance of institution of marriage in Djibouti. This meeting is part of the ministry's effort to strengthen family stability and reinforce social values and preserve the central roles of marriage in the cohesion of Djiboutian society. The opening ceremony was chaired by the Director of Women and Family Affairs, Ms. Fouzia Ali Osman, in the presence of Director of Gender Observation and as well as a representative from relevant ministries, the ministries, but also Mayor of Boulhouse, religious authorities, and member of civil society. This workshop, which brought together key institutional and community stakeholders, aimed to develop a coordinated approach for implementing a comprehensive national training and awareness campaign. The discussion will also focus on the challenges facing the institution of marriage, ways to enhance the preparation of a future spouse, and measures to promote marriage based on mutual respect. On this occasion, the Director General of the National Union of Djiboutian Women, in her speech, pointed out the families is, she said, the cradle of our future, forming the fundamental unit of our society. Our gathering, she said, here today stems for a firm conviction that the family is the cradle of our future. It forms the fundamental unit of our society, the cornerstone of the nation, and the centrals around which our cultural identity and civil are built. The access and stability of our homes objectively reflect the happiness, cohesion, and prosperity of our country. Over a period of 23 years between 1862 and 1885, 12 treaties were signed, marking a turning point in Djibouti's history. However, these agreements were concluded under a clear imbalance of power. The region's leaders did not speak French, and the colonial power exploited this language barrier to interpret the treaty clauses in a way that serve its expansion interests. Thus, the wall written on paper became a tool for redrawing borders and seizing land. In this report, we shed light on what is known as the subtle trap. Let's follow this magazine.
France signed its first treaty with the traditional authorities in the north of the countries at Obok. At first, it neglected these possessions for more than 20 years, saying little values in it, which, despite the opening of the Suez Canal, which should have increased the geostrategic importance of the entire region, it was mainly because of the interests shown by the Italians and the British in this area that the French finally decided to truly colonize Djibouti, beginning in 1882 by appointing a governor. In the context of territorial conquest and European rivalries, Djibouti then became the stage for political, diplomatic, and geopolitical confrontation. Western powers rushed to sign treaty of friendship in order to legitimize their territorial claims. These agreements often failed to take into account their legal, cultural, and relational significance from the perspectives of pastoral societies governed by different forms of authority. The dozens of treaties signed between France and local customary authorities thus reflect more misunderstandings and tension than genuine agreement. Upon their arrival, the French were fully aware that the populations of our territory possessed their own languages, traditions, beliefs, and legal systems, which were sometimes incompatible with the French way of life and worldview. Yet these cultural rich were despised by Western civilizational arrogance, which generally regarded indigenous peoples as a savage in need of civilization. Colonizations therefore created a situation of confusion that inevitably led to tensions and hostility. In fact, from the first Treaty of March 11 in 1862, which was written in both Arabic and French, the remaining treaties were drafted solely in French. Most traditional authorities relied on their own languages to communicate. The first treaty signed between in 1862 and 1882 therefore generated numerous misunderstandings that eventually led to violence. Indeed, the misleading and erroneous interpretations of the first Treaty of March 11, 1862 caused the Sultan of Rahaita to turn away from France, which had become the protecting power of the Obok Coast. Large portions of territory were consequently abandoned to the Italians. The Sultan could not conceive that they had supposedly granted their lands to France free of charge in exchange for 10,000 thalers, the currency of the times, as the treaty claimed. According to the Mada'a customary systems, a sultan has no legal authority to dispose of land and distribute it to individuals, much less to foreigners. It should also be noted that neither the Isa chief nor the Sultan of Goba'ad understood French and even less Arabic. To overcome this difficulty, local interpreters from the port towns employed by the colonial authorities were used. The customary law does not function in the same way as the modern legal systems imported and imposed from the metropole. In this case, France's land cannot be sold. Rather, it is shared and may allow different communities to coexist as a long been the case among the community living in present-day Djibouti. These various treaties, although fundamental to the constructionist, expansionist, and territorial evolutions of Djibouti, had definitive and irreversible consequences for the country's internal borders and its frontier with neighboring territories. However, the treaty signed with the colonial empire were not only ambiguous but also reinforced the subjugations and alienations of territory under the authorities of the various sultans and ugas. They explicitly reflected the loss of sovereignty of this traditional chiefdom, which had initially been regarded by the French as independent rulers with whom they could and should negotiate as equal. The two treaties signed at Korambado, one of the Sultan of Gobad on December 14, 1884, and the other with the Isa chief on March 26, 1885. Clearly demonstrate that they were not fully understood by their signatories. The latter had little understanding of the terminology and the legal concept employed by the colonizers, including terms such as cessions, property, and donations. In nomadic cultures, the idea of transferring land ownership does not exist because land is considered sacred, inviolable, and inalienable property. Their caravans were outcompeted by the railway, their movement hindered by arbitrary borders, and their territories no longer depended upon their own authority.
The National Gendarmerie is informing the public of a worrying increase in online fraud in recent months. The fraud line network are using fake Facebook page, fake WhatsApp account, and other online platform impersonating the Wi-Fi mobile payment platform to deceive they deceive citizens and steal their money. Given the seriousness of this threat, the National Gendarmerie is launching a special operation to register victims, identifying them, and gather the necessary evidence to support the ongoing judicial investigation with the aim of identifying those involved in the crimes. In this context, the National Gendarmerie calls on all victims in this type of fraud to fill their compliance on Saturday, July 11 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Residents of the interior region, the gendarmerie brigades in their respective areas. The National Gendarmerie confirmed that this operation represents a critical step in combating the cybercrime and aim to protect citizens from organized criminal network. In our sport news, Djiboutian athletes Abdurrashid Awale Ilmi triumph in the 15-kilometer race. The Djiboutian flag once again flew high at the top of an international competition thanks to the brilliant performance of Djiboutian international athlete Abdurrashid Awale Ilmi, winner of this Sunday of 15 kilometers held in the Kingdom of Morocco. Starting at 7 a.m. with nearly 550 master athletes from 5 foreign countries. Djiboutian champion dominate the race from start to finish, crossing the line in the first hours. And now for the regional scene in Kenya, they surround for the year. Kenyan boasts support for the African Trade and Investment Development the Insurance Corporation. The Kenyan government announced an additional contribution of the US 40 million US dollar to the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance Corporation. The decision reflects Nairobi's commitment to strengthen risk management mechanism in Africa and supporting initiatives aimed at boosting trade and investment in the continent. By increasing its contribution, Kenya aims to contribute to creating a safer and more attractive economic environment for investors, as well as facilitating the mobilization of a capital to finance strategy project. For the international scene, the sports, Norway eliminates Brazil, England, defeat Mexico, and qualifies for the year 2026 World Cup quarterfinals. The Norwegians and English national team qualified for the quarterfinals of the World Cup after two exciting matches in the round of 16. In the first match, Norway pulled off a major upset by defeating Brazil 2 against 1 thanks to their solid defense. They eliminate one of the tournament favorites, ending Brazil's run in a round of 16. In the second match, England secured third place in the quarterfinals after a thrilling victory over Mexico. This is it for this edition. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful evening.